God damn, Gary. Some serious gourmet shit. What flavor is this? That's right, it's the all-hell medium roast private blend. Check out the Geek Grind Coffee Nerdrotic page for our other options like the Decadent, Feathers of Liberty, vanilla-infused flavored coffee. Or if you're looking for something darker, try the Dark Roast FNT blend of the Fellowship. You know what? Just buy all three. GeekGrindCoffee.com. Use discount code Nerdrotic. Huzzah!
I learned a long time ago that there's no sense getting all riled up every time a bunch of idiots give you a hard time. In the end, the universe tends to unfold as it should. Plus, I have a really large penis. That keeps me happy.
Woke.
It looks like Chuck's taking the skin boat to Tuna Town.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
My mind is a raging torrent, flooded with rivulets of thought, cascading into a waterfall of creative alternatives.
God darn it, Mr. Lamar. You use your tongue prettier than a $20 whore.
Did I ever tell you about Ahsoka Tano? She was your father's exotic teenage alien apprentice, a fine piece of jailbait from a more civilized age. She had the tightest body and the perkiest little breasts in the galaxy, barely legal in most systems. Anakin and I used to double-team her at the end of every during the Clone Wars, and once in a while we'd even have the entire 500 first run of train. Constant porno, Luke. You have no idea. And she was a good friend.
So much like your father.
Nerdrotic.com.
I'm back streaming. It's been like 40 minutes since I last streamed.
Yeah, you were talking about that classic Bryan Singer movie, Apartment Pupil. I love that movie.
I know.
That was great.
Oh, Ryan. Apartment Pupil. Yes. Good movie. Good movie.
Yeah.
McKellum.
Yeah, well, look, I can't say I haven't made mistakes on streams before, or misspoke, or gotten a movie wrong. So I can't tease Ryan too much.
Oh, I've never done that.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it was a great conversation. It was awesome. And the thing that made me laugh the most was when you said we're gonna do a short nooner today. It's gonna be 90 minutes, maybe even shorter. I was like, all right, that's great. We'll see.
So 2 hours and a half.
2 hours.
I'm sorry, audience. I have a lot to do today. Plus, I'm doing something pretty fun and family related. So that cool. That too. Welcome to the Nerdrotic Nooner. It's always good to have a nooner. I'm still kind of discombobulated from my trip and still trying to get back in the sync. I completely forgot we did a nooner last week. So
well, that explains why you've been like on the Geeks and Gamers Daily in the morning. It's just like I saw you show up yesterday and today, and I'm like, oh, are you a new recurring on that? Like, what's going on? And it's got to be so time wise, your clock is off, right? Like, still off.
Yes.
What time did you wake up today?
Oh, early for me, like 7:50.
Oh, yeah, that's hella early.
Yeah, but my wife had to wake me up, so I asked her to. I asked her to. Well, I've also been very busy watching Buffy. I was supposed to watch Ahsoka last night. I went, oops, I accidentally went to Buffy season 3 and watched the last 4 episodes of season 3. Whoops.
Just accidentally.
And I watched Ahsoka this morning, partially at the gym. So, yeah, we're going to talk about that. And the WGA strike is over. I know, bad news, but it was going to end at some point, and we can talk about the ins and outs of that, of course. Hello, Chris Gore. Welcome, sir.
Hey, man. It's good to be here. Good to be on camera, not sitting at my couch. I got up super early this morning and thought, you know what? I got a new microphone. I got the audience. Also, your audience has complained. Why isn't Gore on camera? And so it's usually because I'm just doing email, sitting at my couch. I'm paying attention to the show. I'm chiming in when I feel like I can contribute something, but I'm kind of working. And I thought I gotta give them their money's worth. I gotta be on camera. So here I am. So we'll see. I need a new camera though. That's the thing. I've got this camera that goes kind of in and out of focus. It's not a cheap webcam, but it's not the best. So any recommendations for a camera?
That's fine if it goes in and out. Sometimes it's just adapting, right?
Yeah.
I can, there's a cheaper like Canon one that does a pretty good job that I could recommend to you.
That's what I need.
Yeah. Cause I have a super expensive Sony one that's kind of awesome, but now the Canon one's the one that goes to the UK with me. Cause you will learn, Chris, that we have to bring our stuff with us from now on. I mean, it's just part of the deal. Even if you're on a
suitcase
for it. Yes. Or 2.
Or my God.
Or more.
So you brought the Roadcaster and everything.
I did.
You just brought the whole setup. Wow.
Yeah. I have a travel Roadcaster now and one that stays here.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
There's a point where it's worth it, especially when you break a Roadcaster on the road. It's like, you need to have that extra one. Yeah. That happens with travel. Hello, Exodus. Good.
Hello. I always laugh with that intro. I don't know why. It just gets so much louder now at the end.
It does. It's just so racist.
I know. It's just so racist. But it's good to see Chris on screen making his debut. I'm digging the VHS and super large cassette tapes in the back. I remember those days.
Those are actually tables. They're actually tables.
They're tables.
Yes, they are.
They're tables. And I took the top of the tables. I'm like, well, I'm not using the table. And I do have one that's like a coffee table. I just sort of threw those in the background. And then those giant VHS tapes are from a popcorn company.
That is so
sells
cool.
them. So I thought, well, I'm just going to throw Film Threat branding on it. And that's my background.
I love it.
It works.
I need to, I want one here.
Yes.
Nice.
And then of course you've got the Shakespeare bust. Wait, the Shakespeare bust is right here. You know what that's from, Gary?
Batman.
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
that's an actual prop replica. The head pulls back and it was bootleg. I bought it at Comic-Con in the 90s. And a friend of mine said, oh, where'd you get that? And I said, well, it's at this booth. And we went to the booth and they had already shut it down because it was like you couldn't sell them. They have an official one now that is awful. It's super cheap. This one is like from some original mold or whatever. It's so well done. And then, of course, R2D2 is now a pirate. So
yes,
join the One Piece.
Luffy D2.
Yeah, Luffy D2.
Luffy D2.
Yeah.
I just like when you were originally wearing it, you were wearing your Captain America shirt and the Luffy hat. So you were really Captain Luffy.
Yeah.
My head is too large for that hat. So that R2D2 will have to have the hat. So there you go.
Yeah, because his head isn't
just
large.
Like how Baby Yoda is the Prussian. I don't know what ranking that would be with the hat.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Baby Yoda. What are you talking about?
Baby Yoda wearing the hat?
The hat.
Yeah. If Baby Yoda wore the hat, sure, that can happen.
Yeah.
Why not?
Oh, you're the from the whatever podcast. You're
I think Chris is seeing it.
Prussian?
Oh right, yeah. Oh my
think it's
god,
from
I
Prussia,
love
isn't
that.
it?
I love that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love that. It's pretty awesome. I love seeing you on that show twice a week. It's so great.
Hey, I'm a busy girl. I like live stream daily.
Yeah.
Clearly, all over the place.
Yeah, you get around.
From podcast to podcast.
That's right.
Although, wait, I've got a little bit of a beef to pick with you, or a bone to pick. Is it a bone or a beef? I don't know.
A beef bone to pick with you? Let's just do both.
So out of the, we're talking, and I forget what it was, maybe before the stream or after a stream, and it's like, yeah, you should do a show called Dadcast, where just dads talk about stuff.
Oh yeah.
You start the show and you do it with everyone but Gary and I. So
Gary is always busy, okay?
I didn't get an invite. First of all, I could have, said I'm too busy. But you got all these people on the show doing Dadcast. What am I? What am I doing?
Trust me, we're warming up to you. I get nervous around you guys.
Okay.
Why?
Get good at Dadcast, and then
I gotta get better at being on Dadcast. I'm not usually in the dad mode ever.
Right.
I've seen you in drunk mode, X-Ray Girl. You're very comfortable. Yeah, you don't get nervous.
Maybe that's what I should do. I'll just get drunk on Dadcast.
Yeah.
Do it. But you will be going on.
All right.
You will be, both of you. But yous are both.
All right, cool. Yeah. A buddy of mine just had a kid. He's a friend of mine who's, maybe one of the older dads, and I was just giving him all this dad advice, and I was like, I forgot how much I know, like how much basic stuff. And when you've had two kids, the second one is so much easier. You're like, I got this. It's not that big of a deal. I know how to do this.
It's just interesting, some of the stuff that I've even just learned just talking about to two different people about dad stuff. And I mean, even you guys, like some of the easy tricks for young kids, or like how to do something or realize something. So I think this is good conversations that we're having. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like instinct kicks into gear. I mean, if you're a dad that's around,
right?
Instinct kicks into gear, and because Melissa gets really mad. She got me some books, and I didn't read them because I was too busy reading comic books. I figured it out. I did.
They didn't have books back in the day, so
yes. Well, it was cave paintings for me, so that's what
Gary discovered fire.
They're holding it back, big events, so they can't do anything, and they're kind of stuck doing nothing and doing filler episodes until they get to like the real show, like the real events that matter. I mean, I tweeted this morning. I tweeted something kind of obnoxious, which is typical for me, but I basically said, we've reached the point where the characters in Star Wars are going to be watching Star Wars. Like it's just become like, it's just become this, especially in the last episode when what's the robot played by David Tennant was like, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, which I thought was so stupid. It was just, I mean, it's definitely cartoon level. Yeah. It's cartoon level writing. And I don't get the sense that anything is important,
No, it's cartoon writing is the best description. You've got a guy who's developed a bunch of cartoons which don't require, it's thought that they don't require as much sophistication, but there's a reason anime is just crushing American animation now. And it's because of the sophistication of storytelling. I mean, we talk about One Piece. You look at it on the surface and it looks like just a goofy cartoon until you like watch the show or read the manga and see how intricate the character work is on that. It's next level. And there's no reason why Star Wars shouldn't be that, but it never has been under Disney. Disney is doing a bad a bad carbon copy of a carbon copy of a carbon copy of a carbon copy of Star Wars. That's what they're doing. They don't know what it's about anymore. They fundamentally changed it by removing, quite frankly, the male energy. There's no male energy in Star Wars, and this forces female stuff. What they said was you remember that shirt was for a promo for Nike or something like that. No, that was the philosophy of Lucasfilm. And it's obvious. It's the same as the MCU. And it broke Star Wars. You broke its major characters. It broke Star Wars. It cannot be fixed. I think there's a fable called Humpty Dumpty out there that pretty much is the summation of Disney Star Wars. They're just going along. They don't have the talent or the will to put it back together. They're too worried about political capital, because what they need to do is, at this point, and I've said it before, is just stop. They need to just stop. Vault it. Maybe make some comics or some books, but just freaking stop and start over. And I don't even think that'll help at this point.
Well, I mean, George Lucas was smart with that, right? Like, Star Wars went away. It made you miss it. It made you want it. God, I remember this drought in the early 90s. And there was all this like nostalgia over Star Wars. It was such a fun period of time. Like, there was this, like, there were fanzines by legit fans. I mean, this is before blogs and whatnot. And there was one by this guy named John Snyder called Report from the Star Wars Generation. It was such a good zine. I mean, it was like, it reminded me, it had like the attitude of like Film Threat magazine, but it was all about Star Wars and cool stories that you never heard. He would interview people. He'd talk about rare toys. And it was cool because no one was into it. You know what I mean? Like, no one was into it. And I remember just buying those big pulp, there were these giant like toy like collector magazines and newspapers where you'd go through and see like, oh my God, the price of the Return of the Jedi Imperial shuttle is like $300. And that was a lot in the 90s.
Yes.
So yeah, like I miss that. I miss even, God, I remember, and I have to dig this up. There was a CD-ROM that talked about how Owen Lars was supposed to be Obi-Wan Kenobi's brother. They were related. It was weird. It was weird. There were like all these different things where Lucas was like trying stuff out and then it wasn't there. Then there was that Shadows of the Empire. I mean, it was a fun period.
Owen Lars being his Obi-Wan's brother would have been great. They should have stuck with that.
Was it, Obi-Wan's brother, or was it? God,
they should have done that. That would have explained their kind of strained relationship, and he's a Jedi, the other one isn't.
It was Anakin's. I don't know. It was a different. They had a different relationship, and you could see Lucas was kind of figuring it out. Like, I don't know what to do. I really feel like he waited too long to make the prequels, and by the time he did, he just was not. He was just out of practice. I don't know. Like,
so out of practice. He hadn't directed a film in over a decade, 15 years. Well, since 77. God. So no, 20 years. Yeah. He had not directed a film.
Yes.
And he hasn't directed very many, to be honest with you. But you're right. After Return of the Jedi, they had the Power of the Force figures go to about 85. And that was it. They had a role-playing game, a couple of video games, some Ewok specials, but generally nothing, until Timothy Zahn's novel came out, Heir to the Empire. And that's really what started ramping things up again. And it took a few years. It took a few years for it to really ramp up into a frenzy until it hit the 20th anniversary, which was nuts. But, I mean, its time has come and gone, because unlike Star Trek, which went from 66 to 2005, they were able to create new characters and really evolve the series, especially with DS9, and Doctor Who, which ran its course, came back, did something even better. Some people might disagree, but they modernized the series without absolutely gutting it and destroying it. They introduced the Time War, which was freaking awesome, and then eventually it fell apart. But that we had 50 plus years of greatness and that was Star Trek too, with varying degrees, but it was still pretty damn good. I would watch any bad Doctor Who episode prior to the 50th anniversary, or any Star Trek episode prior to, from 2005 back. I'd be fine with that, and it'd be better than anything that they produce today. But Star Wars didn't have that. Star Wars had a lot of good stuff in Dark Horse in the EU, but they shit can that. But as far as the movies and the cartoons, it's mostly bad now. It's just mostly bad. It's mostly like really mediocre to bad. And you can't come back from that. There's just things you can't come back from. So we have episode 7. I mean, there's one more episode left, and it essentially is Ahsoka arriving. So last episode was Sabine arriving at the planet, and this one is Ahsoka arriving at the planet. We have our second episode of Ezra, who's just a wet blanket in this, and a horrible chase scene. The logic in this series, the only thing that makes sense is intersectional feminism. Why would Sabine offer, hey, Ezra, here's your lightsaber? And he's all, no, I don't need it. I gave it to you. All right, if that followed up some awesome, like just force fighting without a light, but it didn't. He ends up getting his ass kicked and has to be saved by Ahsoka, right. Which is Space Aladdin. Ezra's Space Aladdin. He is. Yeah. And the actor, again, there's not bad actors in this. There's horrible writing. Horrible writing. And, I think last episode, or was it it was last episode, we had which is now going to be a meme because it's meta as hell, when the little poodle asked Balin, does he miss the Jedi? He's like, I miss the idea of it. And that's such a meta line for Star Wars. I miss the idea of Star Wars. But it's all weakness now. And what do we get in this episode? Long, boring conversations that were predictable. Like that last line that Thrawn utters. He's all, they gave up, or they lost something they couldn't afford. And I'm all, time. And I waited a couple beats, and he says, time. It's just like, come on. It's like, God, this is so bad. It's a joke compared to good series like One Piece. It's utterly it gets embarrassed by One Piece. And Star Wars doesn't know how to Disney Star Wars doesn't know how to make television. We've said that over and over again. And we just get this repeated pattern of people get really excited when something comes out, and by the time it ends, everybody's disappointed. Even your most ardent shills and your most ardent fans that are still hanging on end up being disappointed. And this is just going to lead into another series that you're not going to see for a couple of years. That's supposed to branch out and be a Dave Filoni movie. Oh, dude. Can't wait to see that.
When is that going to happen? And I feel like there's such a gap between the storytelling, at least when Marvel, and look, we will never get that 10 years and 22 movies telling that saga, the Infinity Saga. We're never going to get something like that again. No. That was so, and we act like they planned it all out. I don't think they planned it all out. I think a lot of it was very fortuitous. They started planning in the middle, and it all led to a place. And a lot of it was, well, this connects to this and this, and we're never going to get something like that. And the thing is, but what was interesting about it is there'd be 2 to 3 Marvel movies a year, and each movie felt like an event, and it felt like you had to see it. Even if it was a character you didn't care about, like Captain Marvel, you had to see it because it fit into everything, right? And now, I mean, with the Marvels upcoming, you will never see a bigger drop between like a movie that did this and then the sequel, or at least what was supposed to be the sequel, a big enough drop. But the point is that there was consistency. It was consistent storytelling, time to digest. There were 2 to 3 films a year with Marvel, and they kept up that pace for a decade, and it's impressive. And with Star Wars, there's such gaps. Are people going to remember? I mean, one of the biggest flaws of this series is the fact that you had to really know Rebels and Clone Wars to be able to get it. Well, guess what? I watched season 1 of Rebels. I watched some of Clone Wars, but I wasn't a devotee because I recognized that both of those series were for children. And I have no problem with that. I mean, there's like, like when they do Muppet Babies is not for me. I like the Muppets when there are more layers, You know, I like old school Jim Henson Muppets when there are more layers. It's like, this is as entertaining to children as it is for adults who understand that there's more going on with the Muppets. Right?
Yes.
Especially if you watch the old Muppet Show, which I watched as a kid. Now you watch as an adult, it's even better. There really is. Those shows were genius. But, you know, the Rebels show and the Clone Wars show, and look, I acknowledge that I'm sure there are episodes that are more adult, but in general, from the animation style to the storytelling to the writing, it's a kid's show. I'm not going to check in on that. I needed some background to care, and what's missing from the show, and this is why Marvel at its best was so good. Some of the best scenes, most memorable moments from Marvel movies involve zero special effects. It's Tony Stark having returned from failure, you know, after Infinity War in Endgame at the beginning, sitting there like emaciated, and him arguing with Steve. There's no special effects. It's two guys talking in a room. And Ahsoka has none of that gravitas. Nothing, because we're not invested. Because we're not invested in their stories in the past. Because, you know, the events don't seem to matter. They're trying to manufacture Star Wars moments. And I can't say that I didn't enjoy aspects of this episode. I think there are fun things in it that feels Star Warsy. I love Baylan Skoll. I think he's a great character in a bad show. And then also I like the idea of Ezra fighting without a lightsaber. I like that idea. It's like, that's interesting. We haven't seen that. He didn't succeed, but it was, oh, that's interesting. I'm willing to watch that. But because it's not grounded in something or built to something that we really care about in terms of the drama, the scenes where people are talking are boring. I should be riveted. I should be on the edge of my seat, you know, and that they haven't established the foundation that makes us care. And that's what always, not just Star Wars or Marvel, but makes anything great. You have to establish something so you care about those people and events. So even inconsequential moments have meaning.
I absolutely agree. Every second of your show has to have meaning. There should be no filler in an 8-episode series within your episodes or an episode. If you're back to 25 episode series and there's like just a little filler episode because of scheduling conflicts, or you got to do a bottle episode, you could still get greatness out of that. See Midnight, Doctor Who's Midnight. Wait till you get to that episode. X-Ray Girl. That's a bottle episode. It all takes place in basically a shuttle, and it's absolutely one of the best episodes. That's where you can get the most creativity. I'll get to go back to One Piece. There isn't a second wasted in that show. Not a single 100%. Second. And everything gets paid off in a huge way. We were just talking. There's a scene where a dude eats his effing own leg. And it sounds horrifying. And it's one of the most emotional, satisfying scenes. It's not the most, believe it or not, but one of the most emotionally satisfying scenes in the show. Filoni could never pull that off. There's no emotion in this show, and that comes down from the writers and the creatives. And also, you know, the big advantage Marvel had is they were leading up to Thanos. The big disadvantage that Disney Star Wars has is they keep playing around in a timeline where Thanos was defeated back in the 80s. Darth Vader was defeated back in 1983, and people still... The meme Vadered going around says everything. It's like you can't go back to him. His story is over. It's gone. They needed to move forward with Han, Luke, and Leia, and that opportunity is gone. Maybe there's some reality somewhere where Disney got the Disney trilogy. And, you know, we talk about they couldn't put Han, Luke, and Leia in a scene together. And I think some people got like literal with that. And they're like, well, that wouldn't have changed anything. The whole point of saying that is that's the bare minimum they could have done, and they didn't do it. What people wanted, what people expected when we heard Han, Luke, and Leia were back on board for Star Wars is we were going to follow all three of them through 3 movies, and we were going to finally see peak Luke, which we never saw. We never saw peak Jedi Luke who could bring down a Star Destroyer with the effing Force. Just absolutely OP Luke. That's what everybody wanted to see. It's the simplest thing, but we don't want to give the fans what they want. We give the fans what they need. You know, that's the kind of shit like an auteur can come out and do with his own original stuff. I don't have a problem with that. When you're playing in George Lucas's sandbox, you show Luke as a complete badass, which they never did. They never is. It is the biggest failure in cinematic history, and it was such a layup.
I really want to know what went into the thinking behind the story concepts for The Force Awakens. Everyone, it's very popular to say Star Wars died with Last Jedi. For me, I saw Force Awakens and I saw all my friends enthusiastic. Star Wars is back, blah, blah, blah. We're trying to have a conversation at the ArcLight Cinema. We all watched it at the Dome and we're all sitting there and I'm like, I don't like this. I know I'm surrounded by people who love it and are raving about it. I'm sitting here and I'm trying to just like do a, internally look, and I'm just, why did I not like it? Well, I didn't like the way Han Solo died. I didn't like that they threw Luke in at the end. Why? And I'm trying to figure out why I'm surrounded by people celebrating like they're freaking on the moon of Endor with a bunch of Ewoks, playing drums on a stormtrooper helmet. I'm referencing that final scene. I'm a yub guy. I don't like the music. I don't like that they change it to some freaking new age bullshit with flutes at the end of Return of the Jedi.
I'm opposite. I never like, I don't like yub nub.
Yep, no,
never.
I'm not saying it's great. I'm saying
I never liked it.
I prefer it to how they changed.
But it was very late 90s, like
right.
What was that deep forest or fucking techno forest music they played? It was very much like that. It was like Celtic. It was really big in the 90s. Yeah, like it was like adult like electronic music.
Like John Tesh. No one even
yeah.
It's
not it was I still better than Yub Nub. Okay.
No, but I'm saying I prefer it because that's how I remember it, and then they change it. It's like all the changes. I'm sure you've watched the Superman, the Donner cut, and I don't mind that they fixed a lot of the things in the Donner cut of Superman. Well, there's the Donner cut of Superman 2, but they made changes to the first Superman.
Yeah,
right.
I like the TV version. I like that big long version. There's so much more Krypton in it. Krypton. Oh, do you have a crystal that came from Krypton? I think I do. It's downstairs.
Oh, that's great.
I do.
It's great.
I'll show it on the next one. Yes.
Yeah. But like what I don't like the changes that they made is that they changed some of the sound cues. So my memory, I watched that movie so much.
Empire, the Wampa scene, they changed the pacing and sound cues of that. I hated it. I'm like, oh my God. When Luke is, getting the music cues to where he's using the Force to get his lightsaber gets jacked up. And now entire generations don't even know, like the timing of that editing was so perfect and they jacked it up.
That none of those improvements improved anything. They changed it by a certain percent. And there's a theory, I don't even know if this is accurate or not. There's a theory that Lucas changed the original Star Wars movies to block Marsha Lucas's ex-wife from getting, residuals and money from it. Because if you change it a certain percent, it's a new work. So you're making money off the new work, not the old work. So the people that did the old work don't get paid for the new work, whatever. I don't know how true that is, but I do know I've seen clips of Lucas talking about, like, when you go through a breakup, you just don't even interact with it. And you're sitting here going, oh my God, he's talking about his ex-wife, but he was actually talking about Disney. Have you seen that clip?
Yeah, I put it in one of my videos.
Yeah,
a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
I feel sad for him. Like something, to me, George Lucas is now a tragic figure who is one of the most creative people of our time. Him along with Spielberg, Walt Disney who gets no respect anymore. Steven Spielberg, like Gene Roddenberry, these creative giants. Who are the creative giants of the future? It's corporations capitalizing on old IP because they can't come up with something new, because it always comes. And you were talking about this actually earlier, when Ryan basically Ryan made a confession that Anakin has made more videos than he has.
Yes. Well, no, it was Anakin made more videos than Jeremy.
More than you yelling, that's right. Then
That's
Jeremy,
right.
that's what it was.
So apparently in Ahsoka, Anakin made 20 videos for Ahsoka to train. So they brought back Anakin in this episode, and he looks like a 40-year-old, 20-year-old. And like
That's
he did
LA.
that's LA, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, to be real. He looks like a have you seen Seth Green lately? I saw a picture.
No, I haven't.
No.
Yeah, he looks like a
I wanna-
50-year-old, 16-year-old.
Oh, wow.
It's really bizarre.
Oh
like, when
my God.
like,
Yeah.
Look, when you're dressing like you used to in the 90s, you know, and look, I still have T-shirts that I had from the 80s. I've got like a T-shirt collection of prized shirts that were sent to me by people, or like I have, like, you know, so I get it, but I don't wear those necessarily. Only if not if I'm going out in public, that's for sure. So yeah, here's a shirt I won't wear in public. I wore this.
Anakin comes.
Yay!
Yes.
Chrissy gave that to me. So there you go.
I have a Simcast shirt. I have a film threat shirt.
There you go.
Maybe
Awesome.
I'll get it. Maybe we'll get Dadcast shirt since we created it.
Yeah, where's
and then
Dadcast?
X-Ray Girl stole it.
I don't care. I'm like, that's a good idea. Someone should do that, but not me. You know,
It's so unusual
good.
for Asians to steal stuff and repurpose it.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna
The
get
lettering
clipped.
just slightly different. Where have we seen that before?
Yeah, everything you buy on Shein
Louis
and Temu.
Vuitton instead
Yeah.
of
It's the Alibaba version of the Dadcast.
Oh my God. I order stuff from Temu. I feel terrible when I do it. I feel guilty. I got that hat. I got that R2, the hat that R2 is wearing on Temu. It's anime. They don't call it One Piece. They call it like cartoon hat or something.
Well, they can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
they
it's like
can't-
all our
pirate cartoon hat.
all my
Yeah.
like my Blade Runner 1/6 scale is like Robot Hunter.
right.
Yeah, that's fine. And
But it's Deckard.
Warrior of the Wasteland is my Road Warrior 1/6
Ooh.
scale. Oh, it's so
Oh,
good. It
sweet.
comes with the dog. It's freaking I'm looking at him
Oh,
right now.
the
He's
dog.
next to Conan, Red Sonja, Trump, and the Godfather. I have them all in one second. I'll take a picture of it. I'll take a picture of
Wow.
it. Trump
that's
is
awesome.
Trump is sitting in the Godfather's chair too.
Oh wow.
Jeremy would be proud. Okay, so yeah, they remember buried Anakin. C-3PO shows up in this episode to speak for Leia. So there's toxic male senator who's not believing anything that Hera's saying. I can't remember if we got a Hera ass shot in this episode. I'm sure we did, but it wasn't as memorable as the other Hera ass shots that have been in this episode that, quite frankly, I think it's why most people are tuning in. And I'm not going to blame you for that. But toxic male senator is just not believing Hera, despite all the holographic evidence, the data, the witnesses that two Force users killed an entire crew, took one of the most prized prisoners from a Jedi, that's some Night Sister that they have to have some intelligence on, that used to run an Imperial shipyard, and they're just like, nah, it'll be fine. We won't even call Luke Skywalker, and we're not going to believe General Hera, who fought at the Battle of Endor. So it takes C-3PO through C-3PO, they girl boss Senator Toxic Male. And by the way, Madam Mon Mothma has nothing to say during all this. It's an incompetent matriarchy. That's what it is. Yeah. And Akbar is there too. I mean, Ryan, we suspect it's Admiral Akbar, but it has to be. Not saying anything, because apparently all he says is it's a trap.
Right.
Fuck. It's so bad. But yeah, C-3PO, Anthony Daniels getting that money. Good for him. But yeah, C-3PO comes back and speaks for Leia and gets Hera out of trouble. But they're still not backing her up. Thrawn couldn't be that much of a threat. They don't seem to be that worried about it. What they need to do is show and it would take a really good writer to show this, but you could. I want you to think House of the Dragon. People think this isn't possible. House of the Dragon built a world in, I'd say, an episode and a half. One Piece built a world in about an episode, a world that you can buy into. I haven't bought into the New Republic and like where are they at with the Empire? I hear a bunch of people talking, but through some exposition and through showing us, you can, and you've had multiple series to do this. You could show like how difficult it is, despite one episode in Mandalorian season 3, which doesn't tell you shit, to root out the Empire. And it's not just Empire. You could get really complex with this. It could be people who are not on either side. You could have pirates, the black market, a different political philosophy. Maybe you can base it on post-World War II and maybe create some kind of a Cold War with somebody else. Like, and that's where, you know, other evil factors can come in. There's a million ways you could have done this, but they didn't choose one of them. They just chose, hey, let's be Star Wars about Star Wars, jangle some keys, and we'll have long pauses between dialogue where you can go drop a deuce and come back and you won't miss anything. And then we'll just talk about ourselves and lead into next product. That's it. That's what Star Wars is. And people are still clapping for this. There's always going to be somebody. You know what? Love what you love. Doesn't matter. But just know that the thing you love is been dead for a long time and you are cheering on a corpse that's being defiled.
Yeah, I just I think it was Robert Meyer Burnett who said basically Star Wars is just about Star Wars now.
Yeah, it's about
it's not about it's not about anything. Whereas if you look at, you know, the original Star Wars or a lot of other original IP, there were layers to it. It was about more than that. It was about Luke Skywalker's spiritual journey, wanting to understand what happened to his father and try to live up to that, right? Or, you know, I just want to get off this planet. I just want to leave my home, which I, you know, got to remember as a kid, like, yeah, I grew up in suburban Detroit, you know, in Michigan, and, you know, wanted to like leave and maybe go to New York or Los Angeles or just somewhere where the idea of making a movie or being involved in the film industry was not like a crazy person. No, like you grow up, you work at the factory, you work for Ford or Chrysler or GM, and that's what you do. And I wanted to do different things. I wanted to, you know, take a different path. And I think a lot of people felt that way. You want to kind of leave your home, and that's the hero's journey, right? Leaving home and then coming back the conquering hero, which is Return of the Jedi. So, I mean, what is this about? It's not, and also character drives story. I don't know in a way like who is, and there are some interesting arguments about this. Like if you look at Star Wars Episode 1, who is the lead character of Star Wars Episode 1? Well, it's Jar Jar. Because Jar Jar is the character that goes through the hero's journey. All these other characters are just, it's an ensemble piece. Is Anakin the lead? Not really. Qui-Gon, no. Obi-Wan, no. Padme, no. You can successfully argue that the Joseph Campbell hero's journey, all the beats fulfill the character of Jar Jar. I just think that like Lucas was obsessed with that and getting it right and making a Buster Keaton type of character that just sort of, you know, was involved in impossible accidents where he always came out okay. And he was just, and I don't hate Jar Jar like a lot of people do. I think the big problem with Jar Jar is screen time. There are just as many weird, comedic, stupid things. I mean, if C-3PO had as much screen time, C-3PO, the gay butler of Star Wars, he's a gay butler.
He is.
Which is fine. He's great comic relief. And all Star Wars movies have something cute and have something comic relief. The problem is you can't focus and center the comic relief. And that's what Jar Jar, that's the flaw of Episode 1. That's why there's these phantom edits. There's like several different cuts and they make the movie better. You just have Jar Jar in it less. He's not annoying. He's actually like a good comic relief.
Yeah.
So, and kids like him. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you had this very serious world that had provided levity, which was new back in the late 70s and the early 80s. So that's why people really, you know, latched on to heroes like Han Solo and Indiana Jones, where you have this very established fantastical world, but it's being taken seriously. People can die. There is some horrors in it, but there's levity. You have this hero that's kind of clumsy, that doesn't like snakes. or
Right.
this rogue truck driver in space who says Yahoo. You know, like it's hard to explain to God, I'm going to sound old as fuck now. It's hard to explain to the younger generation how new and different that was back then.
Yeah.
Like, oh, our characters have like personality, but you know, because it wasn't that prevalent in films back then for kids,
Yes.
right? For my
Yes.
age, and it really changed things. It gave another layer of personality. It allowed some vulnerability with our heroes. Okay. But not too much, not to where they're betas, but it's just like, oh, they're just not these rock solid things, that they're actually human underneath. And it evolved things for the better until it didn't, till it stopped. Now we have a bunch of expressionless women talking to each other and being very incompetent. And then when the master strategist Thrawn comes in, he just keeps losing and going, that was all part of my plan. You know, it's like so fucking stupid.
I thought he was a little better in this episode.
A little
but I
better.
think he's weak.
Well,
And I'm
because all
sitting
of his
here-
shots were from up here, by the way, so you didn't see
Right.
you didn't see the pear-shaped man. You know,
But it just, I don't know, man. Just listening to him. First of all, I find his voice I find him hard to understand. Is it just me that he's hard to understand? I'm listening. And I couldn't turn. I usually watch these shows with the closed captioning on because you get a lot more information. Because you'll get when I started watching Game of Thrones with the closed captioning on, it's like I get all the names.
well, you
right?
had to, right? Because some of the accents, and then as time went on, it was shot so dark you couldn't see anybody's lips. So, you know,
it was bad.
Yeah.
But I'm having a hard time. He just is, to me, just sort of lacking gravitas. And I'm like, if he's so good, the character should almost die, or he thinks, or everyone thinks they killed them, but they actually didn't kill them. And Thrawn's the only one going, well, they must have survived this. You know, you're coming back to report to me that you've killed them. They're actually not dead. Here's how they could have survived. And so I need you to go this path.
So-
and he's 10 steps ahead. He just seems, I feel the problem is, and this shouldn't surprise you, is the show is very one-dimensional. And it's because it's from a guy that came from cartoons. And the cartoons were probably, and of what I watched, were better than they had any right to be at the level of being a cartoon, but not at the level of being a live action show that could appeal to adults and kids.
Exactly. And okay, I'm going to give you a scene that many people probably won't think about. But when Ahsoka is in the debris field, right? Because they went to an entirely different galaxy. They weren't worried that they might. Huang brings up the fact that we might end up wherever, and she's like, "I'm totally not worried about it. Once we find the bad guys, we'll find Sabine in an entire different galaxy." But nobody was worried because, of course, they're going to find them. So they avoid. The whales appear into Thrawn was ready for him into a minefield, and the whales cover for a little while inexplicably. Then they leave. Of course, Ahsoka survives. She goes into the debris field. The ring around the planet is a bunch of whale skeletons. That's where they go to die, the space whales. And Huang goes, "I'm going to scan for Sabine." And there's a pause, and then Ahsoka goes, "Okay." I haven't found Sabine. There's a whole other scene later where she goes, he comes back and he goes, "I haven't found Sabine. Shall I scan again?" No.
Oh my God.
We don't need to scan. I'll just use the Force.
Right.
That was two
So why
separate-
didn't you use the Force the first time?
Why didn't you use it the first time? Why did that require two fucking scenes?
Bruh, yeah.
And there's another meta line that I'm going to paraphrase later on that where basically Thrawn says, "Oh, we just wasted a bunch of time to get what we need." And I'm like, that is the most meta line in the history of Star Wars. We wasted a bunch of time to get what we need. Minutes watched and the seals clapping. And God, this review really just writes itself. I can't wait to do it next week when the final episode comes out.
I just think that they haven't shown him being a threat in the show. We need to see him as a threat. We need to see them lose, or we need sacrifices. Look, there were even dead Ewoks. People forget in Return of the Jedi, some Ewoks didn't make it. And these turtle things, I don't think not one died. But it's sort of like, I think Ryan mentioned it this morning, like they're just cute, so they're not gonna. What did he say? God, I forget what it was. It was a funny line.
They're too cute to die.
Too cute to die. That was
too
it.
Cute to die.
Too cute to die.
I was
Girl's
happy
putting
when
on a
that
shirt.
Ewok bit it.
That's a new T-shirt on Flagrant Triggers.
Too
cute to die.
Too cute
I'll wear
to
that
die.
shirt.
I would love, and then, well, I'd have to make a art of that, but this show has more filler than most anime. It's ridiculous.
But at least there's like hundreds of episodes of anime.
Right.
Yeah.
This is 8 episodes of 40 minutes, or no, varying degrees of 30 minutes, to be honest with you. And nothing has happened.
Like I can walk away and not miss anything.
And you have a show to compare it to right now with One Piece, where it's so dense. I would say a quarter of an episode. No, well, I'll be nice. A third of an episode of One Piece has more character and plot development and world building than the entirety of Ahsoka.
Yeah,
that's not hyperbole. That's a fact. You already you have an established antagonist, an established protagonist. You have established sub characters. You have the crew pretty much put together by the end of the episode. You know exactly what they're after. They get one of the things they're after. They come together at the end, and Garp, they kind of pay that off later on at the end, and we fought off the first boss, and there's more to come. We've gotten a couple of bosses in Ahsoka, and they haven't done shit.
Right.
I compared Balin to the Sphinx in Mystery Men, so you've watched Mystery Men. So Balin's the Sphinx in Mystery Men. That's what he is. Great character, doesn't say anything, doesn't do anything. Love Ray Stevenson, rest in peace. It looks like he's going somewhere. Something's calling to him. We've heard that for 4 episodes now, and we got no payoff. It's mystery box bullshit. It's more mystery box bullshit. That's what it is. Hail Opla.
And it looks like I don't think his character is going to die. They're not really building to that. They're building to something more. That might even be in the movie, right? Like, are they going to do an Ahsoka season 2? Or are they going right to the movie? Because I not that I'm impatient, but can you just go somewhere? At least we knew or anticipated with Marvel, they were building to Thanos. And then it was a 2-parter, and it was great. It was great. I mean, you could, there's a lot to nitpick, which is fine. That's normal, but they were building to something. I don't know where.
Yeah. They're building to do you want to put up the tweet? Pull up the tweet I put up. We'll play a clip. I'll tell you exactly what they're building to. They confirmed it, in my opinion.
All right.
Breaking Disney trilogy.
Yeah. If you could pull that up, please.
1 second.
And play the clip.
Here we go.
Still trying to process everything you told me. The Empire was defeated.
Battle of Endor.
The Emperor died.
That's what people say.
Still trying to process everything you told me.
That's what people say. That's what people say.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh no. The below that, Master of the TDS, where it's like Ray, like old man Luke with titty milk. Oh my. Because she's supposed to be the Obi-Wan of that movie. Right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like 15 years later or some shit. I don't know where don't believe any plot leaks. They haven't even started writing the Rey movie. They were getting it together when the writer strike started. So they haven't written shit. Yeah. And but all roads lead to Jake, which will lead to Ahsoka being the most important thing in Star Wars. It will lead to somehow Palpatine returning in the Disney trilogy. It cements the Disney trilogy. They've been telling us this pretty much from day one since The Mandalorian came out, when Jon Favreau, I'm paraphrasing what he said, hey, we got some time to fill up to the Disney trilogy. They're going to cement it. They're not going away from it. And this is a retarded move. This is an absolutely retarded move. It is unquestionable now that the Disney trilogy were failures. They failed with Star Wars. Sure, they made a few bucks that started to decrease as time went on, but the movie budgets went way up. And dude, I talked about this years ago, right? To the lead up to the Rise of Skywalker, I was hearing from legit people that this thing is costing like $500 million to make. They did so many reshoots and they were shooting on the fly. And remember, Jar Jar didn't want to be involved in this in the first place. They had to talk him into it. And he had to retcon all this freaking Rian Johnson shit. And he did it poorly. It was a fucking awful movie. And it was a mess. It was a mess of a shoot. You brought up that it's the one Star Wars movie that they didn't make a book of the making of Rise of Skywalker.
Yes. Yeah. No, they didn't. They do these, like, what is it? It's the guy.
I know.
Correct me if I'm wrong. J.W. Rinsler? Is
yes,
that the guy?
J.W. Rinsler.
So he's done these incredible behind the scenes books about all of the Star Wars movies, but they didn't do them about the prequels. And my understanding is that the behind the scenes of The Force Awakens was a mess. That they were making decisions at the last minute. There was a character that was like a sheriff that was supposed to be a prominent character that was completely cut out, yet there's an action figure of this character that was released on Force Friday. How do I know this? Because I went to Force Friday. It was the one time I went and I'm like, and it was when it was at a Target, I believe I went to. And they sort of escorted you in after midnight. They were bringing in people like 10, 20 at a time. And they walked you down to like, here's the aisles where the new Star Wars stuff was from The Force Awakens. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to buy any of this crap. Like, I don't want any of this. I want to see the movie first. I don't know what any of this means. Because I remember when they did that with Toys R Us with episode 1, and I bought everything. I literally was going in buying 12-inch this and that and whatever. And it was, I went a little too hard into the prequels thinking it would be awesome, but man,
what, the figures? I did too.
Yeah, I did too for episode 1.
Remember Aura Singh?
Yes. Oh, I had the 12-inch of Aura Singh.
There's a 12-inch. There's a huge box of Aura Singh, and she's like in it for like 3 seconds. You know?
She's in it for 3 seconds. What a cool kid. This was the beauty of George Lucas's. He had throwaway ideas that would just be in the background that, like, you could imagine a whole story. I mean, look at like the screen time of Boba Fett in the original trilogy. It's nothing. You know, like it's nothing. And that's what was the beauty. And there's nothing like that. There's nothing in the background that spurs the imagination, right? There's like, to me, that's what was the problem with current, and this is with a lot of writing for anything fantasy, is that in lieu of having budget to show everything, what writers used to do is make you imagine things that they couldn't do. So for example, in the first Star Wars movie, they're having a meeting on the Death Star, and they mention that the Emperor has wiped away the Senate. And I'm thinking to myself, one, there's a Senate, and two, there's an Emperor, and the regional governors now have direct control over their territories. Fear will keep the local systems in line. Fear of this battle station. Like, so they created an entire world in my head that I didn't see.
Yep.
They don't do this in Star Wars now. They show you everything. They don't. They could have said, you know, well, General Solo is off doing this, or like whatever. Like, there's just so much. And the problem is that these writers don't consider or even think that their audience might have an imagination, might have any type of imagination, and build a world in their heads. And none of the modern genre films really do this well at all. And that's what Lucas and Gene Roddenberry, you know, they talked about certain things. They talked about, I mean, they shot a scene of, like, you know, the council in Star Trek the Motion Picture that has, I've seen stills from it. I've never seen it. You remember what I'm talking about, Gary?
Yeah, I've never seen it either.
I've never seen it, like, but I've seen stills of it. It looked kind of bad. It looked like the cantina scene, but like with really dumb looking aliens. And that didn't make the final cut, didn't even make the director's cut, and never been seen.
There's so much of Star Trek, you think about it, that we haven't seen.
Yes, a ton of it. And
Doctor Who, we don't know his name.
Right. I love that. I love that certain things are kept mysterious. I don't need things over explained. I can use my imagination. I mean, and also I would argue that part of the reason we're still talking about Star Wars is because of a scene in the first Star Wars with Alec Guinness where he explains what the Force is.
Yep.
It's no special effects. It's just a guy talking, and he delivers it with such gravitas, such weight, and it's something that is spiritual and you can relate to. You could relate it to any religion, any earthly religion can it can has some meaning in this, that it resonates to today. Inflatable pirate ship cooler you could put booze in and float it from one side of the pool to the next pool. We're all sitting around there in beach chairs and blankets because it gets cold in the desert at night, watching One Piece, my second watch through. And it's awesome. That show, everything matters. Inconsequential moments mean something. They all mean something. The most throwaway lines have, and of course you notice this on second viewing. You've watched it a second time. I'm not all the way through, but you've watched One Piece.
I've watched it more in a second time.
I was gonna say.
Okay, good. Yeah, more than okay. Yeah. It's so good. It's the writing, and also the casting of the characters are so likable, so different, and you understand what matters to them and all their backstories. Zorro's backstory is just heartbreaking.
Well, you bring up like so many good points, and like a huge thing that I see is the characterizations. We have a reason to care about these characters. It's not just verbal communication, but just even their faces. You see the emotion in the eye. I watched Ahsoka for 10 minutes and I'm like, I'm bored and I don't know why I should like this at all.
Yeah. I think part of it is Star Wars probably just doesn't translate to a television format. I think, you know what? Star Trek is episodic television. Star Wars is movies. That's just, I mean, they just work in that form, right? Like that's the medium. That's the medium that storytelling actually worked.
The Star Trek movies worked in the 80s because we were robbed of so much Star Trek because it should have gone on longer than 3 seasons, but it's a television show. It has always been and always will be a television show. Star Wars, the opposite. It is film. It has got to be film. It's got to be epic. Everyone needs to count, and it just doesn't do that. It's got to be special. It's not special anymore.
It's not special, especially when you've got shows like Boba Fett, which I only watched a few of the episodes of, or Obi-Wan, which I begrudgingly watched every episode, mainly because my audience on the Film Thread channel said, we want you to watch all of it. And then I got an angry rant about IKEA chairs that I can't escape for some reason. People are still doing memes of IKEA chairs.
Well, because it was stupid. They were in these stupid.
It was stupid.
You're in this like tens of millions of dollar episode, and they have these cheap ass chairs in a ship with no straps on them or anything. It's like, oh yeah, it's fine.
Like that's a shuttle. They peppered it with like cheap chairs they bought, in Burbank at an IKEA.
IKEA. I wonder if they got meatballs. They probably did when they were there.
There was
the
deal.
Meatballs are delicious.
They are.
The
They are
meatballs
good.
delicious.
They are good. It's the only reason to go to IKEA.
Yeah, to eat, and then like try to survive the maze. It's like a maze.
Real quick, we got to get into soups, but I wanted to talk the strike. The writer's strike is over. Anything have you heard anything about the Film Actors Guild, or is it going to be a while? Or
I have heard no chatter.
I've heard nothing.
I've heard nothing, even from friends of mine in the industry. Nothing about the SAG stuff. Although I did get a SAG check for a job I did, because I forget, like AFTRA is like the television. So I was in that from doing like G4 stuff. I did some voice acting on a cartoon that a buddy of mine made, Chris Prynoski from Titmouse. It's called Nerdland. And Paul Rudd is in it, does a voice. What's his name that you hate, that comedian?
Which one?
We used to like him, and then he became kind of
Patton
an awful
Oswalt?
person. Yeah, Patton Oswalt.
Yeah.
Why did I forget his name? Anyways, I got a residual check from doing that job, and it was $2.07. So I don't know. I'll probably just post a photo of it. And I was like, oh, there's a little SAG
All right, so
after logo, but whatever.
The big takeaway is that like the WGA got a lot of what they wanted. There was a lot of compromising. I don't know how much the money is different, but it looks like it's pretty much the same deal that was offered 3 months ago. But they were offered some, which shows that like you decimated your industry, by the way. So there's going to be fewer shows produced. So I don't know like who won, to be honest with you. The producers won. The producers won because they're not going to have to spend as much money, and they got themselves out of some horrible deals. The WGA is going to claim victory. Apparently, there is going to be some transparency with the WGA, with the writers, but they'll be under confidentiality. It's going to leak like a sieve. It's going to leak like a sieve.
Right.
Do you know how much stuff I'm told? You have no, I know how much stuff you're told, Chris. And then you can't say, do you know how much stuff I'm told? It's ridiculous. It's effing ridiculous.
And you can't say anything? You can't, you gotta be.
The writers can't say anything, but they're going to definitely tell a friend in a conversation, be drunk and go, my God, our show isn't watched by anybody. You know, like it's going to get out. And eventually, if they really want to push ads on us, it's going to have to get out. They're going to have to start legitimately competing. They're going to have to treat all of their content like YouTube. You're going to have to start talking about how many views. You're going to have to describe what a view is, what falls under the terms of a view. We know what it is for iPlayer with the BBC. It's anything that's watched under a minute is considered a view. It's considered a view. So I think it probably performs a lot like YouTube videos, where you'll put up a view. A view is considered about a minute, right? And it's varying how many people actually sit through your entire video. There's impressions, there's all kinds of stuff. But this minutes watch stuff isn't really going to work for advertisers because they want eyes on their ads. YouTube is still positioned to be the number one for this because ads have already been on their platform, and they've been a huge part of their platform. And this is where independent people can still come up. They can use Rumble too. I recommend you use it all. You use it all, especially if you're making some crowd-funded web series. I would put it everywhere. And you can get, a little bit of money from YouTube. It'll play the ads, and that way it'll help fund your project. And if it's good, if you've got, a lot of people want to make fan films where you can't make money. I would say start pushing towards original stuff where you can. Maybe repurpose that fan film into something original or something that's, like you can do a Flash Gordon project now, I think, without getting nicked. A Buck Rogers, you can maybe Zorro. You can use some old IPs if you want. I don't know where the Shadow's at. It'd be pretty cool to see some like a period piece Shadow, just full on noir would be rad. I'd watch the shit out of that.
Flash Gordon, I wonder
Solomon
what's
Kane.
The rights of Flash Gordon, because it's probably going to be in the 2030s. Funny to even say those words out loud, but somewhere in the 2030s, the rights will be public domain for Flash Gordon.
If they're not, I thought they were already. Maybe some parts of it are. I think some parts of it are, but I could be wrong.
I made a Super 8 Flash Gordon movie when I was like 11 years old, where I played Flash Gordon, and my friends, I made a lot of little movies when I was a kid, like stop motion animated movies. They're really bad. I might embarrass myself.
Dude, Flash Gordon is bonkers. It's amazing. It would be, if somebody did it right, it would be so freaking fun.
It would be so good because the spine of the story for Flash Gordon, both the comic strip and the serial from the 1930s starring Buster Crabbe, and the movie with Sam Jones, which is a great documentary about that called Life After Flash, which I happen to be in. I'm in it.
There you go.
That's not the reason I'm recommending.
We got to get him on. I think it's possible to get him on. I think
he lives in San Diego. He's in San Diego.
Oh, he's a homeboy. All right.
Yeah, dude. You can reach out to him. I met him and got to talk to him I went to a screening of Life After Flash, and he was there at the after party, the nicest guy on the planet. He's always at conventions and he spends so much time with people. He's great. But
I was obsessed with that movie when it came out.
I loved it. I loved it because I saw an early rough cut that I've never seen again. So they did six months, maybe 6-8 months before the movie. I was the first one in line. I was a kid. Remember, I finished my paper out and walked to this movie theater. It was crazy. It was the first one in line and got in to see a rough cut where they had them against the blue screens, not green screens, blue screens, and the effects weren't finished. And they had all these extra scenes. I remember going nuts because I loved the Buster Crabs cereal. I used to watch it when I was a kid, and I would have to stay up late at night and I'd watch that. And then after it was Saturday Night Live. And I watched like that. So from the 70s, like I would just, that was my Saturday night.
It also had the best comic strip and the comics were amazing.
The comics were amazing, but the story of it, to get back to that, the spine of the story for Flash Gordon is a totalitarian dictator keeps people fighting amongst themselves. We're talking about true identity politics. The Hawkmen, the Baron and his people, and all these different, the Lizard Men, all the peoples of Mongo. He keeps them fighting amongst each other to not notice who the real evil threat is, which is freaking Ming,
the Merciless.
Yes, and you could tie that in maybe a little bit to current day politics. I know we don't want to go there.
He looks suspiciously like Alan Ing without a mustache. Yeah, he does.
A bald Alan Ing. With like a big
Ing the Merciless.
Ing the Merciless. Okay, Legion of Memers.
Legion of Memers.
Get going. Ing the Merciless with Alan in a bald Alan and a Fu Manchu mustache, just like on Side Out.
Dude.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I have a Flash Gordon shirt and a terrible blonde wig. Maybe that's what we'll do. I don't know.
Oh, poor Alan. At least he spells Alan right. That's the.
Well, I know he's watching the show because he texted me during the show because one of the Film Threat writers, Andrew Stover, sent in a super chat. Maybe you can find that one.
Where's could you find Andrew Stover's
super chat?
And
it's about Temu. They're bugging me about.
I got
Temu.
it. I'll read it if you want. So Andrew Stover for $10 says, Chris, the Temu app is under investigation by the Fed government. They're harvesting your data and selling it. All the engineers are from another app that was shut down by government. Beware.
Oh my God. All right. Well,
I'm kind of,
well, they have it anyway.
I'm kind of with Ryan. I mean, like, if a government wants to spy, I really don't care. I'm more concerned about like, other things being hacked. But if they want it, like, just if they're spying where I'm going to shop, they're going to be really bored.
I'm so
seriously. They're gonna see me going to the 35er in Pasadena and then the AMC Burbank 16, and that's pretty much my.
Yeah, if they look at my shopping habits, they're gonna see that I put a bunch of stuff in my shopping cart in Sideshow and eBay and Amazon and don't buy it. That's one of my worst habits. My wife sees the Amazon account all the time. She's like, "What is all that shit in there?" I was thinking about it, but I didn't buy it.
I do the same thing with Amazon. I've got like this. I don't know if I should get this, but it's a accurate to the new Dune movie still suit. It completely accurate. Comes with shoes.
Where are you gonna wear it?
It's like $400. I don't know.
Can you pee in it?
Well, it would probably be hard if it had and I'm thinking like, could I make that?
No. I mean, you're supposed to be able to pee in the suit and it repurposes.
Yeah, and then I drink it and then I drink my own pee.
I mean, how accurate is it? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I get things like
processes.
I don't go that crazy. I get like Steelbook Fifth Element 4K.
But I've got like a Mr. Fantastic costume that has stretchy arms. I'm like, I don't know. I was at Dragon Con, which I got to get you to go to Dragon Con, Gary, please. You got to go
think
to
about
Dragon
it.
Con.
I'll think about it. It's Atlanta though.
It's Atlanta. No, dude, it's so fun.
It's a city.
You will and they have all these panels that you personally would love because they do panels about speculative science and like a lot of the stuff you talk. I'm now getting addicted to Forbidden Frontiers. I hate Sunday night because it's like NFL is on, Ryan is on, so I listen to Ryan. But you're on with Forbidden Frontiers and then Zipcast. So I'm like,
Sunday's a great night.
Yeah, you can hear like
TV.
You can get racism, conspiracies, and women talking about
Simpery.
buttholes. I mean, there's just a lot of there's a lot to talk about right there.
Right. And then the Whatever podcast is also on. And
I'm
that's
sorry,
like late night though.
Ryan, I apologize. You don't just get racism; you get bigotry too. So
right. Well,
speaking of Ryan, for 20 British pounds or euros,
Euros.
Writer's strike is over. Just in time for Jar Jar Abrams to pirate another classic from my childhood, Krull. Is this guy trying to remake every movie since silent films? Yeah, I think that's the only thing people will let him touch because his star has fallen. One of the deals that Warner Brothers was able to get out of was Jar Jar Abrams. They canceled the deal. Now they have the opportunity to pick them back up after the strike. I'm guessing, Chris, not many. Like George R. R. Martin's deal will be picked back up probably within the next 48 hours.
Right.
Jar Jar Abrams? Don't think so. Don't think so. George had ample time to finish the WGA strike was time for George to finish the book, and he didn't. I doubt he barely wrote on it. A Marcellus for $50. The most disrespectful thing that the sequels did was that Luke and Leia died overdosing on the Force. How the hell does a Skywalker, let alone the children of the Chosen One, die from using the Force too much? Jar Jar Abrams and Rian Johnson and hacks. Matthew Hammond for $20 on the Streamlabs side. Batman the Animated Series and early Pixar movies grab people of all ages and that hold up today. It is like executives have forgotten what good storytelling is and are more worried about checking boxes. Is there not one executive that realizes this? I think they do. I just don't think they have the will because they've let so many activists in that they are way more worried about being called a racist, a white supremacist, or a bigot than actually producing something good that would drown that out in a second. I mean, some people went after One Piece. What's there to complain about One Piece as far as diversity or anything? But they tried. IGN said it was too faithful to source material, but that's IGN. They're retarded. So, Ezra, I had to leave the galaxy. Sabine, I couldn't make you stay. Ezra, the Empire was defeated and the Emperor died. Sabine, that's what people say. Okay, I'm not going to sing it. From Taker 610 for $20. That's what people say. Woo! Marla's non-threatening unit for $4.99. Chris, have you seen the movie Witch the Subversion? The sequel is to it is pretty badass too. Gary should watch if he's up for some fun action. Hi, X-Ray. The Witch of Subversion. Have you seen it?
I have not. Although A24 is doing a thing in October where they've got the movie The Witch coming out, or some people call it the Vivitch. So
the Vivitch? Why?
Yeah, because it is spelled with two V's, which is the old way they used to do the letter W was with two V's.
Is it Robert Eggers?
That's the Robert Eggers. Have you ever seen The Witch?
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, it's so good. So it's coming back to theaters.
Oh, it is.
I literally just bought tickets before the stream.
Oh.
It's coming to theaters. I think it's next Wednesday.
Oh,
so they're doing like this whole thing of weird A24 horror, like X and The Witch. Love those.
Oh, Witch is brilliant, dude. Lynn Jones for $5. Mrs. Kelly Jones, by the way. Chris, you have the best job going to movies, cons, toy reveal parties. What an amazing role you've carved out for yourself. Nice.
Yeah, I just wish I had more time to. I'm working on, like you
None
were
of
talking
us have
about
time.
No, but George R. R. Martin, like he could have used the time during the reaction to the pandemic. I'm not going to call it the pandemic anymore. I'm going to call it our reaction to the pandemic.
Yeah, I agree.
That's more accurate description because we chose to react a certain way. I think we could have been smarter, and I hope that we actually admit some wrongs and learn some lessons. Not to get too political. I get bugged by people for that. Like, it's like, look, it just comes up organically. I don't remember talking about politics so much, but I didn't remember
It's
it
not
being
political.
thrown.
They made the pandemic political, but now hindsight has proven to us that it wasn't political. Both sides were very much about keeping us locked down and making lots of money through corporations and lobbyists who grease their palms to ruin our small businesses.
Well, no
That's not
surprise.
political. That's what fucking happened.
Well, no surprise. I'm angry about it. It affected friends of mine
Yes.
directly and their small businesses, including you, Gary, your
Yeah.
wife and her business, and among other friends of mine, people who this place called Edwin Mills, the Equator. We got to go to this restaurant, really great restaurant in an alleyway in Pasadena. I know the owner, Teddy. He was just like, he pushed back. He went to the Pasadena City Council. He got their health department to say, we're not following LA County rules. Like, he was one of the guys that stood up and said, this is nonsense. I'm just going to do outdoor seating and we'll have our whole staff will be wearing masks, but we are going to remain open. And they did. And I went there. God, I went there almost every other day during that summer, just to support his business. And so I just know too many people who were affected. Wait, what was my point? I got away.
I don't know.
What was the beginning? Was it related to Star Wars? And I went off on
about
a
your
tangent?
best job.
Oh yeah.
ever.
Okay. So yeah, so during it, I finished Attack of the Doc and then released it. There's another documentary that I actually finished, but it needs more work. We'll talk about that another time.
I know
There's
what
another
you're
movie
talking about.
I
I
want
know
to
what you're
shoot it
talking about.
before the end of the year. So it's I just wish. The problem is I've got all these different jobs. So Film Threat, the website, that's a job, right? Then the YouTube stuff, that's a job, right? That's a whole other job. And then making movies is a whole other, making movies and then releasing those movies and having them make money. That's a whole other job. So I just wish I had more time, but thank you for that. I do feel very fortunate. And my butler, oh wait, I don't have a butler. It hasn't made me rich, but I'm very happy. Let's just say that.
Exactly. I'm in the same boat.
And that I couldn't ask for more. And then I see friends of mine who have lots of money. And I'll just say this, just knowing what I know and having lived enough life, I'll say that money does not equal happiness. It just doesn't.
I was going to say you're rich in other ways. I think you've had an enriching life, lots of experience and happiness. So
I feel very fortunate and very lucky. I've been dealt some bad cards here and there, but I don't let it define me. And I don't position myself or think of myself as a victim in any form whatsoever. I just deal with the cards I'm dealt, and that's it. And that's what everyone should do.
Yep.
Just deal with it and, power through. It makes you stronger.
Let's get through as many of these as we can in our very short time left.
You got to run, Gary.
Yeah, Tricky for $10. I see Chris Gore. Hail. Cheers. Malakot63 on the Streamlabs side for $10. Hail, I live across the street from Flying Colors Comics in Concord. Oh, yeah. Flying Colors is great, man. And my wife and I were shopping next door, and a 10-year-old came out of there with 5 one-piece books and the biggest smile on his face. Cool to see the audience is getting into it, too. That is good. Hang on. I have to check something because my brain is farting.
That's pretty cool, though.
So yes, Joe Field. I'm like, why am I blanking on Joe Field's name? I know Joe. So Joe Field created Free Comic Book Day. He's the creator of Free Comic Book Day. But I know Joe.
Love that.
Joe's a good dude. Joe's a good dude. That's a good shop. It's been around for a long time. Hey, Gary, after a long time, I finally started reading Claremont X-Men from Giant Size X-Men 1, and it's been a blast so far. Also, looking for a bunch of other stuff to jump into. TASM, The Amazing Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Excalibur, and New Mutants got some catching up to do. Yeah, the new shit sucks. Go out and buy the omnibuses. It's actually worth it. You can get them for like $100 or under. And start with Daredevil. Get Daredevil Volume 1, work your way up. Diego Salazar for 1,000 Argentinian pesos. Imagine if Disney hadn't repeated the plots of the OG trilogy in the sequels, even with the EU scrapped. If The Force Awakens started with Luke in exile with Rey, who is the last surviving Padawan? The Last Order is looking for her. He knows why, but keeps the secret. that'd be all right. I still wouldn't like that. I want to see. I would have rather have seen something from outside the galaxy come in. It didn't even have to be Sith. Just bring in a new fucking villain.
Have you seen Star Wars Theory did a thing where he reacted to someone using AI with artwork and a story, completely remade the sequels, and it's all centered on Han, Luke, and Leia. And I got chills watching some of it. It's this AI generated. I can find the links and I'll DM you later, Gary.
Yeah, DM me later.
But they even used AI to mimic Mark Hamill's voice, who then narrates the story. And I'm sitting here going like, yeah, it's a little bit fanficky, but it's better than what we got.
Better than what we got.
Better than what we got.
Oh,
I'm watching
boy.
this going like, I'm sitting here getting chills going like, holy, this would be amazing. That would be really cool. And it actually builds up this drama, and there's like, and it actually remakes the Star Wars sequel trilogy using AI.
Cool.
By the way, can I show you a dumb thing I got on Temu, and you can feel free to judge?
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see this that well. It's an infinity ring.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
it's going to give your finger cancer.
My finger will be green in a day, but it's literally, and it says mind, power, soul. I know
we
it's
got,
dumb.
we got to read a couple more here. Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit has donated 10 Canadian pesos. Says, Chris, I'm a big fan. I wanted to get into screenwriting. I have a story about a father who just wants to do the right thing and take care of his wife and son. Is wholesomeness something that would
Maybe a documentary.
Well, I mean,
that's dark.
To be serious for a second, there are two sources I always recommend to aspiring writers, because I have people try to send me their screenplays. Please do not send me your screenplay. Do not send me your story ideas. There are legal reasons for you to not do that. Never send anything out unsolicited. There are two websites. I'll tell you what they are right now. There's one called InkTip. InkTip is specifically for screenwriters that pitch their scripts. So you've got a synopsis and then the script to producers. You're connecting screenwriters with producers looking to make movies. Okay. InkTip, and they regularly sell screenplays, sell from that source. The other one is Lit Reactor. Litreactor.com. It's Chuck Palahniuk, of course, from Fight Club fame, started this, and it's a resource to help writers of all types. That's nonfiction writers, journalists, like fiction writers, short stories. He does seminars, both online and in person. Litreactor.com, inktip.com. Boom.
And I'll have to tell you about the Chris Benoit meme.
Okay. Tell me.
Don't worry.
Oh, wait. I think I know what that is.
Yeah.
And I don't want to remember it.
You don't. Job thought for $10. The new Star Wars trilogy should have started with Vader setting up some evil Sith thing in the past that he can't destroy before he dies, so that Luke has to fix and destroy it from an older age. That sounds better. Grimek for $5. Hail, Gary. I showed my 10-year-old Tombstone last week, and he says to his friends all the time, I'll be your Huckleberry. That's awesome. I'm going to take my kid to Tombstone soon. Eric K for $5 because he's getting into Westerns. It's great. Chris, you have a beef disagreement. You pick a bone problem, says Eric K for $5. DRT is King for $10. Yesterday was the 22nd anniversary of the airing of Star Trek Enterprise yesterday. So it's been 22 years since Enterprise. Damn. And Google is 25 years old. You want to feel old? Google is 25 years old. I have this hot take that I like Enterprise more than TNG, but I have a faith of heart wish got that 5th season in 06. It's not better than TNG. It's not. It's not. Somebody said Voyager was better than Deep Space Nine. I think I can't remember who it was. You're high. Don't smoke crack. Japanese Demon Lord says, history, Vikings are famous for robbing and looting. Netflix, we need black actors in this show. He's just speaking the truth. Shrinkage, I was in the pool, says Sparky TA8 for $5. Yendor 0001, thank you for the $5 donation. Japanese Demon Lord, a Tomb Raider anime was just announced. Tell Melanie.
I think she already knows.
She probably fucking knows. Chris Benoit. I'd like to join Dadcast. Chris Benoit. Sorry, Chris Benoit. I'd like to join Dadcast.
Stop it. One day.
Rebecca Gold. What's up? I love the Nooner. You're the front line, Gary, and I will always support you. Live long and prosper. Hail, Ian. Love you, man. Alfie Pretty for $2. What does rebooted OG Star Wars trilogy look like? Think of get a stock diversity photo. That's what it'll look like. Fred Meyer for $5. YouTube forever or Yub forever. Why did I say YouTube? Yub.
Yeah.
It's Yub Nub, right? It's Yub Nub.
I think it's Yub Nub.
Yub Nub. Get it right. Don't be all Yub forever when you can't even get the name right. Okay. Corey Bloomberg for $5. Exode Agu is number 2 hottest woman in Canada. Number 1 being Trudeau, of course. Even in second place, she is still everyone's favorite Asian snow Mexican.
I don't know what the
fuck is an Asian snow Mexican? Disney buys Lucasfilm, immediately cancels the EU, but now all their shows are making the EU. Tell me you're creatively bankrupt without saying it. Says Just Dutch 024 for $5. Thank you. West for $4.99. The novel Darth Plagueis by James Luceno makes the prequels much better. I think it's the best EU novel. There's some people who might agree with you. Darius White for $5. Disney needs a hiatus. Unfortunately, they can't because unless they keep the sludge flowing through the pipeline, Lucasfilm won't make any money. It won't. The Grizzly for $5. You should extend your argument about the Star Wars fans liking the memory of Star Wars to the entire Disney company. It's no longer Disney. It's the DNC propaganda complex brought to you by Bob Iger. That's it. Not going to disagree with you. JMD Reed for $5. Hearing you mention Admiral Akbar brings up when Roundtable brought the actor in. Oh, so when Roundhead brought the. Why did I say Roundtable? Oh, because Roundtable Pizza is so good.
I love Roundtable Pizza.
Yeah, we got one here, dude. We have one in San Antonio. So he could say, it's a wrap, and break his spirit in the process. Yeah, that was fucked up what they did. Darius White for $5. If anyone is interested in good post-Return of the Jedi story, Shadows of the Empire, yes, from Legends, with Prince Xizor and the Black...
Shizor. It's pronounced Shizor.
Shizor. I'm saying Caesar, though, so they can Caesar.
Close enough.
The Black Sun Syndicate is one. Matthew Hammond for $5. Stargate is so much better as a TV series than the Kurt Russell movie. Gary needs to finish up season 1 Stargate SG-1 so that he can start getting into the show. I need to do my One Piece review. That's what I need to do because Loki and Ahsoka are ending next week, and I have to move on to that, and I really want to get this done. Fractal Machine for 15 shekels. I give up on George R.R. Martin finishing the books before he croaks, so I hope it happens soon so that his replacement can finish them in our lifetime. Yep. Dragon Con is good. Atlanta traffic is very abysmal, says Bazil578 for $2, and that wraps it up. We got to go. That wraps it up. We got to go. We got to go.
We got to go.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, everyone. You're wonderful. We'll be back next Wednesday. This will be re-uploaded on Nerdrotic Live in the next couple of hours.
We have a guest coming on next week, too.
And who's that?
Danica, Comic Book Girl 19.
Oh, no. The Comic Book Girl 19 will be on next week's show. I'm so excited about that.
Who's on this Friday? This Friday is...
Paul
Chato. Great week to have him, by the way. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you next time. Ciao.
Bye.
Later.